Because none of those people are in business because they feel that the neck must eat cheap. None of those people are in business because they feel we need that euro to eat cheap. Those people are in business to make a profit. And it is a reality we have to face. We had said when we were in government that one of the ways in which we deal with it is to create a basket of goods against which the value-added tax and every other possible imposition are removed. So you have, in the same way you did at a regional level, you did it locally as well. That's why I say to you, it is important for you all, because the Dems will never say that it happened under the Barbados Labour Party. They will never do it. But you all must do it, because there are people out there who call themselves floating voters. There are some people who know come out and are relatively ignorant as to what happened in the past and don't wish to become educated. You have to talk to them repeatedly. We created a basket of goods, and that basket of goods needs to be reviewed. It needs to be reviewed urgently, and it needs to be expanded, because the context of the time in which we live is that there are surging prices internationally. Agricultural product prices going up around the world. All those things would render us powerless if, as a government, we did not feel that we had an opportunity to think creatively. When we were in government, we thought creatively, and we created that basket of goods, and we removed the VAT on it, and we removed other impositions, so that you would pay for those commodities which were identified as the critical basic commodities. You would pay for them as little as was realistically possible. But if this government is faced with the same situation, and prices raising even more rapidly, but they choose to do nothing, you can't have it both ways. They cannot then say that having failed to govern and failed to administer the situation, that they can blame the international community as well, because the Labour Party has left a clear precedent for them to follow if only they had eyes to see and read and follow what we have. It's not rocket science, it isn't a new prescription. And I asked in the Senate on Wednesday, why did you know this? Why did you know this? I asked a question to Minister Hensley Bain as to whether he was aware of the surging prices in Barbados, as to whether the government was prepared to review the basket of goods, as to whether the government was prepared to expand the basket of goods. And if so, how soon will Barbadians get the relief? You know, Hensley Bain has no answer. All Hensley Bain said is that he was going to speak with the civil servants, and then he was going to get cabinet's input on the matter. As Lynette said, all that they're prepared to do is to get into a shouting match with the chiefs and the rest of the private sector. Walk about pretending to be astonished that if you go into Popular, you're going to find corned beef a little bit less expensive than it is at Big B or at JB's. But the reality is that Popular don't have a car park. Popular is smaller. Popular don't have the overheads that Big B or JB's may have. So you will always find that disparity in prices. That is not governance. Governance must be the way in which you intervene in the marketplace in order to ensure that you protect vulnerable people. But this government does intervene. It intervenes to act as the principal price gouger. The principal price gouger is not anybody at shipping and trading. The principal price gouger is the Democratic Labour Party government. Last night, while you slept, the policy of the government came to pass, and diesel went up by 9 cents more per litre. 9 cents more. When we left office in 2008, January, it was at $1.46 per litre. Up to this weekend, it was $2.40 a litre. That means that 6 cents short of a full dollar more per litre is being paid on the major fuel which drives business in Barbados. I'll go back to the point I made. I want to walk you through this. It's not only just the fishing industry where the fishermen got to use diesel. When Heinz Transport moves the containers over the port, he's burning diesel and somebody has to pay for it. When the freighters move the goods to carry them to Big B or wherever they carry them, they're burning diesel. Somebody has to pay for it. When Quartz moves their furniture from one bonded warehouse to another to a store, somebody has to pay for the diesel. And so it goes. It is a ripple effect felt right through. And the price invariably is passed on to the consumer. As indeed is the price of higher electricity costs, because this government chose to remove the subsidy on fuel so that electricity costs went up. As indeed is the price on water, because commercial rates for water went up by 50% under this government, because they chose again to ignore our caution and they passed it all along. That's a reality. So you're paying for all of the additives to business, and you're paying more. And in fact, many businesses own the property they own, and if they don't own, they got to pay a tenant. And in each case, the land tax went up, and so therefore, the property tax is part of that which the consumer is paying. There's no mystery to this. It is worthlessness that is taking place in Barbados. High class, first grade worthlessness by an indifferent government. Now, I say to you, this situation with the diesel is something that we can have to start to keep noise about. Because it is not our fault. It is not our fault that the people in Egypt and Libya and Tunisia and wherever else in the Middle East have come to a sudden understanding, almost a Christian understanding of democracy. I am glad for them. But if the world has to pay a penalty, as indeed we must, because we're importers of the fuel that they export, then let us do so in a way that is manageable. When we were in government, we shielded you from having to feel the full force and full effect of every single rise in energy prices. We did that. But this government put that to an end. No more shielding of the consumer. Pay for it at the pump, whatever the price is internationally. Whatever prices we pay to bring it in, pay for it. But on top of that, ladies and gentlemen, there's a thing called an excise tax on diesel. It is 20 cents on every liter. So it went up last night by 9 cents. On top of that, you got to put 20 cents in excise tax. And on top of that, put on 17.5 VAT. 17.5% VAT on the total transaction. Is that not true?
Correct.
That's what's happening to you. Every time you go in a gas station, it is akin to rape, financial rape. So in the space of 3 years, diesel will now have gone up by more than $1. On top of that, you have the excise tax. And on top of that, you have the VAT imposition gone up by 2.5%. And I'm saying to this government from this place that enough is enough. And I feel that it is unjustifiable to expect in the circumstances which are confronting us internationally, circumstances that we have nothing to do with. It is unfair to expect that we can have a government that does not move with alacrity and speed to protect the interests of the consuming public in Barbados. And that therefore they must look at the excise tax and remove it from diesel, because it is a contributing factor to the escalating cost of living in Barbados, and one that they have control over, nobody else. It is Priscilla's tax. Remove it, Priscilla. You have control over that. In the same way that you could raise the excise tax in November on gasoline, which he did in the last budget. Because they don't seem to understand that this nation has to operate on the basis of energy. Everything we do is energy. Such industry as we have is diesel generated. Such or diesel dependent. Such services as we have, and our economy is a service economy, you're burning light. Every hotel has to burn current. Every supermarket has to have air conditioning and refrigeration. You name it, Everything we do in this country turns on the energy sector. It is fundamental to our way of life. Why then would a government that is concerned with the well-being of the consumer make energy the most crippling aspect of living in Barbados? It does not make sense. And it is something that is to some extent within their control to correct, and I'm calling on them tonight to take a step to do that. I feel as well that this Labour Party has to also defend the rich legacy that it has in terms of allowing the average Barbadian, middle class, and indeed working class, to generate alternative forms of employment. And let me explain what I mean by that. We had a progressive policy which said that if you want a house, and the house had a valuation that went up as a result of government's revised valuation. You know, every 3 years government revises the valuation on your property. It's 3 years? Yeah, every 3 years. And your property value goes up. Let us say somewhere where Lynette lives, and that is a nice $500,000 property, but the revaluation puts Lynette at $600,000. You say to Lynette, it's my turn. You say to Lynette, it is not right or fair to you to have to pay land tax on that rate because we did the revaluation and they don't want to punish you for being a successful corporate lawyer. We don't want to punish you for making the money and building a nice house for yourself. So therefore, what we did was we started to reduce the property tax to the point where, and the Labour Party must keep on saying this the way it sticks in their craw. In 1993, people were paying, in 2007, people were paying land tax at rates that they were paying in 1992, 1983. Is that true, Tyrone? That's a fact. Under this government, people had property, same house. It increased in value. So the house may have moved, let us say 10 years, 14 years in value. The house may have gone up $150,000, $200,000 in value. But your land tax was being paid as it was back in 1993, 94 when the government changed. And what did the middle class do when he comes from Bagatelle in my constituency? And in that part of St. James Central, you get people who then start to invest in what you call quality of life things. So you use your house and the mortgage on it you refinance. You got people in Bagatelle with a little gym. That is the little small business that they have. They have people who then rent it out, build out another piece and rent out that so that they're into the apartment business. That is the business they have. They got people who then go and open a little cafe somewhere on the West Coast and indeed on the South Coast as well. That is the small business they have. Some of the folks then open a little hairdressing salon and so on. All of those things that make the quality of life in Barbados a little bit better. But as Clive and Tyrone Barker would tell, these are commercial activities turning over, taking over, keeping the economy going. Every time you open a gym, you need somebody to be there when you go to work. Somebody got to be there as a gym instructor and a trainer. And you have a little cafe, you need somebody to serve the people who come in, and you need somebody to take the money. That's 2 people at least that you're employing. When you have your little rent-a-car business, you're going to have a few more people there to look after that. And so on and so forth it goes. So that what we did was by removing systematically the tax imposition on middle-class Barbados, you were giving people an opportunity to plow money back into our economy. Now, why is it critical that we understand that policy and contrast it with what is happening today? Clyde Maskell is absolutely right. In a little while, it will be revealed that this government's corporation tax receipts have plunged. The corporation tax receipts will probably fall